You know, my closing is almost like Neil Armstrong's One Small Step for Man. Welcome to the International Space Training Center. You're here today to train for the greatest adventure in the history of mankind, drinking at Disney. Now, I know you're probably feeling a little nervous right now, but don't worry. Every sheeter has felt that way at one time or another, even your heroes that host the show every week. But there is one thing they have that you don't have yet, a liver complaint. Before you decide if this show is right for you, let me help you get acquainted with the show. It's powered by solid whiskey and can accelerate from 0 to cursive in 60 seconds. So when you hear the words, "I've never been to the Edison," you'll definitely want to hang on. As you can see, 3 Sheets to the Mouse isn't like anything you've ever experienced before. With all of the drinking, debauchery, and the foul language, kids should head over to the Green Team training, where they can listen to warm and fuzzy podcasts that pixie dust the shit out of Disney. If you'd like to pussy out, just ask any member of the 3 Sheets group for directions to go straight to hell. As for the rest of you, report to your pre-flight briefing. It's go time.
Fuck that little pig.
Now that is phenomenal.
I love shaking my booty.
I've never been to the Edison.
I know it sounds sorted, but you'll be rewarded when at last I am given my dues. And injustice deliciously squared, being free.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 118 of 3 Sheets to the Mouse. We're 4 average guys with love for all things Disney, and this week, while Tim and Adam are prancing around with caribou and moose, carabai and meese, how does it go?
I do think that technically it is mooses.
Mooses?
In the most technical sense, even though it sounds absolutely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's also just caribou.
Caribou.
Yeah.
Carabai. Well, I'm Scott, and joining me on this week's show is the other guy who was left home, not on the cruise to Canada West, Mikey.
Yep, I'm home. Not
Me
alone
too.
because I got the rest of my family, but I'm still at home.
Me too. Got back, started cleaning up the speakeasy. Thanks, guys.
What happened?
I don't know. Possum got in. We're keeping him, by the way.
Got to.
He's going to be our new mascot.
The new mascot.
Yeah.
You got to keep your eyes out for them possums. They are they're wiry. They're 2 hands full. They don't play possum
totally.
Like everyone says they do. They
don't.
They not to quote Ernest P. Worrell.
Oh, Jesus.
From when he saved Christmas, but they will ball up on you.
Oh, you know what? It wouldn't be a show without a Ernest P. Worrell reference.
No, it wouldn't.
Well, we're here to talk to you about some Disney parks, Disney booze, and a little bit of debauchery in between, so sit back, relax, and ask your stewardess for a suborbital cocktail and enjoy the adult side of Disney with 3 Sheets to the Mouse. As we approach the troposphere, Mikey, what are you drinking?
Well, I can look out my porthole.
Could you?
I could, except it's full of bourbon and fruits.
Well, damn it, that's the last time I choose the aisle seat.
Well, you got to deal with the seepage. I thought tonight I would give a shot. I've got an infuser, a bourbon infuser called the Porthole, and I've got some apple slices. I've got some pear slices. And several big honkin' cherries that I, kind of split down the middle. And I poured it, I filled it up with some Buffalo Trace, almost all the way up, and left just enough room at the top of it where I could add a little, about a shot of an Islay Scotch to try to give it a little bit of smokiness in there with with the fruit and everything. And I don't really taste the Scotch at all in there. I don't know if I would notice if it wasn't there because it wasn't a whole lot, but I will say what I found is that this has really rounded out the Buffalo Trace. I went with just a little bit younger bourbon in it, and it has definitely rounded and softened it out. I get it's not so much that it's sweeter like I was kind of expecting. It's just dolphin smooth.
Well, look, look. You guys talked about it on episode 86, part 1 or part 2. I can't remember which segment it was, but
it's a lot about that cruise that doesn't get remembered.
Yeah, well, that'll happen to you. You go out as seaman and you forget everything. But
Yep.
yes, you guys did talk about the porthole, and I can't remember the name of the bar. It was kind of like the midship.
Oh God, I know this. Promenade Lounge?
Yes, Promenade Lounge. That's it.
It is midship,
yes.
right behind the elevators.
Yes,
it's where they have the
midship,
character
right behind the
drawing
elevators.
and stuff like
and
that.
it's a kind of a big area, not a huge bar, but a pretty big seating area.
Mm-hmm.
And they do like trivia there. They do some fun stuff there during the day, character drawings. But yes, one of the drinks they have is the porthole. So, you can sit here and drink to your cruise mates.
That's what I'm doing.
As they cruise up the coast from British Columbia onto Alaska.
And what I'm hoping is that they will get the recipe for what was used in that porthole and bring it back.
I remember.
Yeah. I remember it was Old
guys,
Forester Statesman.
Yes.
Was the bourbon used there, but I can't recall exactly what all accoutrement was cut and thrown in there. I know it had an apple.
There was definitely apples and definitely pears. I thought I remember seeing orange slices.
There may have been.
See,
and I didn't want to go too citrusy.
Yeah.
With the apples, because I thought about grabbing some orange and to be quite honest, I was going to add a little julienne ginger.
Ooh.
To this.
That would be good, because that's kind of one of the things that bourbon has, is that, and really Scotch too, is that gingery, peppery flavor to it.
Well, the recipe that I've got for that actually calls to use a rye, like Bullet or something like that, and I don't have any rye in my damn cabinet. So
I had rye.
I
don't know what happened to it, Mikey.
I don't either. You got to check the possum.
No, he was drinking Balvenie.
Oh. Well, he had good taste.
Yeah, so it looks good. How's it taste?
It does. It tastes great. I mean, it's like I said, it's so.
That's a glowing endorsement for your your bartending.
I let Stephanie have a drink of it. Maybe I should have put some pumpkins in it.
Oh no, please don't.
But that didn't really work for her. I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to just playing and seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing what else I can shove in my porthole.
Well, while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and grab something also to toast Tim and Adam. So a couple of weeks ago, they came over for my birthday. Actually, just about a week ago now. And they brought over a very limited release that only happens once a year during Fé Chile, which is apparently the Isla Whiskey Festival that they have once a year in May.
I thought that was the party that they throw in Alice in Wonderland. The Fraptious Day.
That's right.
That's damn right. It's right. That sounds the same.
Well, on the back of this bottle, it says, "Let the rumbustious revelry begin." So, yeah, it does sound like Fraptious Day.
It does sound like that.
But this is basically Isla that has been aging in ex-bourbon casks, and then they take it and let it rest for a while in ex-rum casks from the Americas, and that gets them Ardbeg rum. So it's kind of like a very, very Isla whiskey with bananas and toffee and, pineapple notes and all these like nice rum notes that go along with the bourbon, or with the bourbon cask Scotch. So it's really, really good. Again, I know there are a lot of people like, I can't drink Isla, but you have probably just been trying to drink Ardbeg 10, which is really, really harsh and really, really smoky.
It's great.
It is great. I've tried to get people on board. They hated it, and they yelled at me for it, and they got fired.
Womp, womp, womp.
So drink Ardbeg or get fired. That's the moral of the story. But no, it's really good. I thoroughly enjoy this. I'm going to have to ration it because it is a limited release, and I don't think they're going to do it again next year. Last year they did something different. It was called like Groove. This is Drum, so this will be the last bottle I have of it.
Good thing it
came after you guys.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
The speakeasy. Mikey, Brent, and I already saw the video.
You got a camera?
We have 4 cameras here. It was actually Brent's idea to install them a week before.
Well, yeah, he was probably trying to see what kind of business you get up to.
Well, actually, we were kind of worried about G's for a while, but that wasn't the problem.
No, I guess not.
Nope.
Good thing I didn't go all Bay Lake down there. That could have been awkward.
Yep. Well, my chair is broken. That was on camera for a little bit.
I didn't touch the chair.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I've seen you and Tim Mouthhug.
I didn't touch the chair. I may have handled your stool.
Oh, my stepper?
Your little red step stool.
Yeah, that's how I get to the top shelf. And the medium shelf.
Which is still kind of the top shelf. But
and sometimes the bottom shelf.
And they're all at eye level for you.
Here to introduce you to this new series is Walt Disney.
In our modern world, everywhere we look, we see the influence science has upon our daily lives. Discoveries that were miracles a few short years ago are accepted as commonplace today. Many of the things that seem impossible now will become realities tomorrow. One of man's oldest dreams has been the desire for space travel, to travel to other worlds. Until recently, this seemed to be an impossibility. But great new discoveries have brought us to the threshold of a new frontier, the frontier of interplanetary space.
We are going to be kind of celebrating some of Disney's love of space. So
this is the Galaxy's Edge recap, everybody. Let's do it.
Psych.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no. We are trying our best. Mikey and I are sitting down. We're kind of talking about what we're going to do for this week while Tim and Adam are away. And the first thought is, well, we don't want this to be a 20-minute show. And then Mikey was like, well, it's you and I talking, so it'll be an hour and a half.
I mean, if I could do that for an hour and a half myself,
this is true,
and still never get to the topic, but I guarantee you, I will at the very least have referenced Ernest Goes to Camp once or twice.
But we did promise ourselves there would be no distractions of Star Wars, because while we are celebrating space, because the 50th anniversary of the moon landing happens this year, July 20th, 2019.
Alleged moon landing.
Don't be one of them. Don't be one of them.
One
Mikey.
of who? One of who? What? One of them spaceship flat earthers?
Yeah. Don't be a flat earther.
Just
saying. I can't see around the corner.
You know what? I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened.
So we are going to be celebrating Disney's love of space on the show. However, we are not celebrating Star Wars because we do that every week.
Do or do not.
There is no try. Let's face it, we're going to get into Star Wars eventually. I promise you.
Oh, I'll be getting into Star Wars come September.
Okay. You and 25,000 others that are close.
You know what, though? 59 of those 20,000 others are going to be Three Sheets Nation, so...
That's true.
You know what? As far as I'm concerned, we deserve a seat at the Galactic Senate. Right there next to E.T. and Gizmo or whatever the hell was going on.
I'm pretty sure, Mikey, that none of us are qualified to be politicians.
Well, probably you more than the rest because
definitely
your background of yelling at people.
Well, I got that going for me. But so let's, to start kind of talking about Disney's love for space, we have to go all the way back to 1955. And that was when, in the lead up to the opening of Disneyland, Walt Disney decided, really was kind of forced by NBC to create a Disneyland TV series because NBC had invested heavily into the production of Disneyland. So they wanted to kind of feature things that were going to be featured in the park or themes that were going to be featured in the park. And the way to do that was to have a Disneyland, the TV series. So in March of 1955, Disney decided to let animator Ward Kimball direct its own series or TV show set in Tomorrowland. And so this was called Man in Space. Now, it is one of the most highly acclaimed series in Disney history. It's been featured in the Disney Treasures, Disney Vault. It is absolutely amazing. So basically, the show kind of briefly talks about the lighthearted history of rockets and kind of the Jules Verne, and let's put a guy in a cannonball or a giant cannon and shoot him to the moon and hit the man in the moon. And then it kind of goes into kind of a more practical look at what humans will face when they go up in rockets in space, both physically and psychologically. So, they kind of get this, again, in 1955, this is, well before the Gemini missions, well before Mercury. It's really before the space race has truly begun. So what kind of happens here is that they kind of go through the how the rockets are going to take off into space and how they're going to be used to vault man to the moon, and so it's kind of an interesting look back at kind of like pre-space flight, like before what the future is going to be of space flight.
And this was a TV series?
Yeah, it was a TV series, and then so the first one is Man in Space. And then the next episode was Man on the Moon, and then Mars and Beyond. So they would eventually update these. So Man on the Moon was aired in December of '55, and that's also directed by Ward Kimball, and it kind of has a humorous look at man's fascination with the moon in animation, also in live action, and kind of just chronicles our fascination with going to the moon.
Does it feature the final scene from Journey into Imagination with Figment?
No, it does not.
Good.
But it does feature some props and some sets and some kind of like artwork that would later be featured in Horizons when they opened Epcot in 1981 or 82. And then the last series was Mars and Beyond, and that was in 57. Again, directed by Ward Kimball. Ward was heavily into the Tomorrowland area. That was his kind of baby. He really did a lot with the theming and ideas of Tomorrowland.
Now, you keep saying these were in Tomorrowland. Was it just like the host was walking around Tomorrowland talking? And
No. It was basically, so when they had the Disneyland TV series, everything was kind of like, okay, here's a series from Adventureland, and that was the True Life Adventure series, the African Lion, they would show that kind of stuff. Here's something from Frontierland, and this is where Davy Crockett, the Swamp Fox, and what was the other one? I can't think of it now, but this is where they would show those series. Fantasyland would be more of like the show the old show clips of things that are coming up, because again in 1955 Peter Pan had just come out. Yeah, it was 53, and Sleeping Beauty was on its way. It's a funny story. They built Sleeping Beauty's castle before Sleeping Beauty was ever released. So, and then Tomorrowland would be kind of this space exploration frontier shows. So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Well, that I guess that explains why I've never seen it.
You should. You really should. They're really great
in Tomorrowland.
They're really great. Really great TV series. You should check them out. I think most of them are on YouTube. Hopefully, and I'm pretty sure when we talked all about the D on episode 115, those will be coming to the Disney Plus.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Let kids watch that and say, it's not entirely accurate anymore, Dad.
Yeah, right? It is fun to kind of look back, which is why I love the Sci-Fi Dining. Because you see a lot of the stuff that was kind of featured on these Tomorrowland kind of things in that, where it was like super retro. Well, today it's retro, but it was very like futuristic at the time.
Yeah, it was like futuristic then, but today it's just like, oh, that's just so retro, neo.
So horribly wrong.
Something. Yeah, whatever. It's Art Deco.
Yeah.
Moving on.
But, the cool thing was, while this was kind of a humorous look at space, it also featured actual scientists like Willy Ley, Heinz Haber, and Werner von Braun.
That guy, the rocket guy.
Yep, the rocket guy.
I've seen November Sky.
Yeah, he was one of the pioneers of rocketry in the United States. I mean, he was the chief architect of the Saturn V rocket, and I know you do, but if you don't know what the Saturn V rocket is, may God have mercy on your soul.
It's erected in Alabama.
Is it really?
I believe.
Oh, yeah, that's right, at Huntsville. Yeah, that's right.
See? I watch Smarter every day, because that's where Destin works. Mm-hmm. That's a plug for a YouTube channel. Sorry, everybody. I highly recommend it. Sorry.
But yeah, so Werner von Braun was on it, and it's just a great show. Really great show. Highly, highly recommend watching it. Now, I guess we should go in chronological order, but I don't want to sit here and talk for the first 30 minutes of the show, because that's what this
God
would be.
forbid.
I don't. Because then people
I want this to be unlike any other episode.
But there were some other things that Disney kind of brought into Tomorrowland, really, and we're really sticking with Tomorrowland for the first 40 years of this kind of history here.
God, I thought you were going to say 40 years this episode. Like, I'm not equipped to record that long right now, Scott. I'm going to need another porthole.
Yeah, you're going to need at least 3 or 4 of them. But one of the attractions that they did have in Tomorrowland, when Tomorrowland opened in, well, technically it didn't open with Tomorrowland, because in October of 1971, when Disney World opened, Tomorrowland was absolutely scarce. It was empty. Now, if you look at videos and you look at pictures of it, there's maybe like a ride and a half, because they hadn't finished building anything.
Basically, the Magic Kingdom for like the first couple years was technically a soft opening.
It was. It really was.
It's like, we're not 100%. And Disney, God love them, they have kept that mantra. Just like, Galaxy's Edge is 100% finished, except for the one ride that everybody actually wants to get on. I know everybody wants to do Smuggler's Run, but damn it, if that Rebellion trackless ride thing is the one everybody wants to do, because it's such a... Anyway, we're talking about Star Wars again, Scott, and
we are.
I'm blaming you.
I told you we get there. So in December of 1971, Flight to the Moon opened up at the Tomorrowland. Well, what was first the Tomorrowland Space Control. Okay, now this is basically where Stitch was, Alien Encounter was. That is the same theater that has been in existence since 1971. And basically, you'd go into a holding area, and this is, again, where you would meet Fluffy, where guests would enter the pre-show room, which is Mission Control, and there they would get a look at their upcoming flight and meet the Director of Flight Operations, Mr. Tom Morrow. Now, after welcoming everyone to Mission Control, Mr. Morrow would explain the purpose of this and the purpose of what Mission Control would do, and then they would introduce the vehicle for the upcoming flight to the moon. Now, here's the weird thing about this. So, as you're going through Mission Control, what today would probably have been done with one animatronic and many, many screens, this was actually a room with about a dozen or so animatronics. And basically, everyone who was working at Mission Control was an animatronic moving around and doing things. And then Tom Morrow, who is the main animatronic, would kind of like actually be more animated. Right,
I was going to say, the majority of those animatronics are probably moving very little, but enough to where they didn't look like a mannequin.
Correct. Very correct. Now
they could do that back then because flat screens
weren't
very expensive.
Yes,
they were so expensive they weren't available anywhere ever.
Yeah, so less screens, more what we like, more practical props.
Mm-hmm.
So after you exit the mission control, you head to the launch pad and into the flight vehicle. Now, essentially, it's the same. If you think back to, did you ever do Stitch?
I love Stitch. Yes, I did Stitch.
You found Stitch.
Yes.
And you rode Stitch.
I rode Stitch because I specifically remember when the harness came down over my neck, you know, I remember I pushed against it and it actually raised up about 2 inches, which I thought, well, that's unsettling. So I didn't get the same reaction everybody else. Yeah, I didn't feel, and the little ear puffer jet thing wasn't lined up right. So I didn't get that sensation like my wife did when she freaked out when the damn thing ran across her neck. So, but yeah, I did the Stitch.
Gotcha.
No problem. Found it easy.
Well, there's a sign.
It had a line out in front of it. You want me to come ride your ride? Make it good so there's a line. I'll find it.
It's essentially been the same theater since 1971. The same exact configuration. Big circle in the middle.
Sure.
Many, many seats circle around that.
Right,
same amount of rows. They tier up. Now, in the original show, there was a screen at the bottom, and that would be your bottom porthole. There was a screen up at the top, a circular screen at the top, and that was your top porthole. And then there were many, many screens around the middle of it, and those were your side portholes. And basically, the flight control would pump in video footage for you to look at while you were flying. So as the countdown began and it was launch time, the craft would be launched into space, and then the entire room, including the seats, would shake with audible force. And essentially, as you look down at the bottom screen and you see yourself leaving space control or mission control and going upwards in through the atmosphere and into space. So now there was one practical effect, and I'm not sure how they do this, but as you exited the Earth atmosphere, the seats would change to simulate the change in gravity. So they would pump air into your seat, maybe to make it more fluffy, so it felt like you were floating around. So that was a practical effect that they would do, is they would actually pump air into the bottom of your seat to kind of move you around and kind of make you feel like you're on less gravity than on the Earth's gravity.
See, it's little things like that on the back end are probably, from an engineering standpoint, a nightmare, because some idiot with a podcast said, hey, let's put this in there. It shouldn't be that big a deal. And Earl says, oh, God, now I got to get pneumatic actuators for every one of these seats and to tie it in. And they can't just keep puffing. It has to seem random but not actually be random, and then not be the same as the guy next to it. And, you know what? Give it up for Earl, ladies and gentlemen, because that poor guy was airbagging Disney rides.
Now, in one of the books I read, I think it was like The Art of Imagineering, they actually had a cross-section of what this theater looked like and how it actually worked. So the two movies up at the top and the bottom of the theater, while they are just round screens, and today people are like, oh, you just project upwards. Well, they couldn't do that because to project you had to use film. And so someone had to actually operate that film. So that film would be projected from the side of the theater. It would go up to the ceiling to a mirror, and then shoot down from the mirror onto the screen below.
The back side, so it would reverse illuminate.
Yep. So very, very.
Which means if they did their homework, everything had to be mirrored beforehand.
Yep. Yes. Or you just turn the film around.
Yeah. Well,
when you wind it.
I'm not a hipster. I don't know anything about that. But I guess that, unlike the ballroom scene from Haunted Mansion where the women are leading the men.
Correct.
Which is actually a metaphor for married life.
Yes. So now as you get into space and you get to actually orbit the moon, you actually get to meet one of the astronauts. They video him in. He's working on the moon with other astronauts. And The reason, Mikey, I can tell you that the moon landing wasn't filmed because if you watch this film, he's moving his arm in real motion, and it's like he's got full gravity and everything's working just fine. And then you watch the guys on the moon; they're much slower. They're more. It's less free flowing. It's more constricted.
Well, yeah, because when you are perpetrating a hoax of that level, you're going to spend more time at it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the astronauts would be would then talk to you, and they tell you about what you're seeing on the moon as you flew around the surface and you saw the moon surface from the bottom window. So while you're there, you're kind of directed to look at the sun, and then they kind of tell you about the importance of the sun, and then all of a sudden you are then engulfed in a meteor shower in space as you're heading back to Earth. The craft shakes, but luckily, of course, everyone is unharmed. And unfortunately,
yeah, that's a liability.
Well, of course. Now, because they don't want you to get too harmed, they send you right back home to Earth because it's time to go home, and we don't want you to die in space.
Well, no one can hear you scream if you did, so
that's true.
It'd be fine.
After just 4 years of operations, because in 1975, really, the fascination with the landing on the moon has ended. I mean, Apollo 11 is finishes in 1969. Again, this opens 2 years later. Apollo 13 was 1970. So I mean, by 1975, the Apollo 17 is the last mission to the moon, and really, there's no fascination with it in American culture. I mean, we've been to the moon. Okay, great. Great. We've done it 6 times and one didn't really happen.
Right. Been there, done that, got the regolith stuck to the treads of my shoes. I want someone to look that up so you'll know what regolith is. You're welcome.
So in spring of 1975, it was closed. And then in summer of 1975, the attraction reopened with a similar premise is Mission to Mars. Basically, same thing. Mission to Mars was the exact same thing, except going to the moon, you went to Mars.
Yeah. It's the exact same thing, but, with a red filter over the footage. They just color graded it a little bit.
Yeah.
Called it Mars. It was the same thing.
Now, one of the highlights of this is that mission control. So, Mr. Morrow got fired. He's done.
Well, because he damn near, every time he sent someone to the moon, they almost got killed. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not a good track record there, Mr. Morrow.
So he's replaced by Mr. Johnson. So Mr. Johnson is now explaining the purpose of your Mars flight. And so then you enter into the theater. There's a window above you, windows below you, and you get to see the kind of the windows on the side. But we did get a new animatronic also in the Mission Control. The first female Mission Control animatronic was placed.
Do you think they really just changed the hair and clothes?
Changed the hair. Yep. Yep. And gave it the Alice Davis treatment.
What did they cut? Okay, then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They give it the pirate cock.
Well, I guess technically you lose that. They don't give it to you.
Yes.
Alice Davis has just a closet full of cocks.
Yeah, she did. But now, so once you're seated, the flight's captain welcomes everyone. Countdowns begin. Launch time. Blah blah blah. Same thing. Same shaking. Same force. Same change of gravity. You get to go around Mars again, like Mikey said. Red filter, and along the way, the craft begins to shake. Sirens blare. Luckily, you're also unharmed here. So, Mr. Johnson's not much better than Mr. Morrow. It's time to go back home to Earth.
Maybe just don't go to Mars or the moon.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not pretty.
If you do, don't go with 150 other people, I think. Mm-hmm. You're just a bullseye for the galaxy to just fling cosmic detritus your way.
So Mikey, this eventually closed and made way for Alien Encounter, which we're not really going to talk about because it's not space-based. You don't actually go into space. You're at home and they bring space to you.
Well,
Well, they figured, you know what? We're tired of sending people up into space where they nearly get killed. Let's keep them here. Let's bring space to them where they also nearly get killed.
I see a common thread here.
Actually, I'm pretty sure someone died in every showing of Alien Encounter. Didn't someone get eaten?
Well, hell, I don't know.
I think. Oh, that's right. You didn't.
No,
see
it's
it.
in Tomorrowland. I saw it when it was Stitch, and frickin' laser turrets came out of the ceiling. What the hell, Disney?
Disney does not appreciate the safety of its guests.
Well, no. They installed gondolas.
True. So, Mikey, how long do you think this one lasted? Mission to Mars.
Mission to Mars? Well, it started in, you said, what, 1974? Five? Mission to Mars, I don't know, 15 years.
18 years of this.
Oh, well.
It went all the way to 1993.
Well, it's old enough to say, fuck that.
Yeah. I ain't going to Mars. You can't make me. So yeah, it was a long run there.
Because we still haven't been to Mars yet. That's why, because we haven't done it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, by the time Flight to the Moon opened, we'd already been to the moon like 3 or 4 times. So I'm surprised that they even did that in 1971 and they didn't decide, hey, let's do something other than the moon because we've already been there. Just interesting.
Ironically, though, they couldn't make the film until we had been to the moon, so they would have the information, the actual, ability to make the model of the moon they would use in their filming.
True.
And stuff like that. So it's, you kind of have to do it. You got to go to do the thing. Good stuff.
True. So yeah. Flight to the Moon. All good fun. Now there are some other space rides in Epcot, or not in Epcot, in Tomorrowland.
Yes.
One of those is a big mountain.
It's not as big as you think.
It's pretty wide. I'll say
it is girthy.
It is.
It is girthy. So what it lacks in horizontal or vertical mass, it more than makes up for in horizontal. So Space Mountain was an attraction that Walt had kind of kicked around, and it ended up being just so far ahead of its time that the technology needed to actually make it a reality was nowhere around. I mean, no one had thought about making that kind of technology until they thought about making, almost the attraction. And this was back when a computer was the size of a refrigerator and had less overall capacity and power than a Tamagotchi. Okay.
Yeah.
It was. There's no way it was going to be made, and unfortunately, it wasn't until 9 years after Walt's death that the Imagineers kind of took this project seriously, and some of the technology was kind of showing up to give them the promise, and so they started actually, working towards. The Space Mountain we see today. Well, it was 9 years later that it would open, but it was after he had passed away sometime when Disney World was becoming very popular that they started looking at adding something out there into Tomorrowland.
Here's the thing. He wanted to do so very very similar track-based ride. The steel two-wheeler roller coaster was the Matterhorn, and this was really the basis for Space Mountain. He basically wanted to build a Matterhorn, but in space. And the Matterhorn was built in 1959. So what he wanted to do was basically, 22 years or 12 years ahead of his time.
Yeah, if you don't think, if you don't look forward, then you're just staring at your past. And that's been that was the premise when Walt was definitely in charge of Disney. I'm not going to get into all that now. I'm looking at you, Eisner.
We can get into that.
So here's the deal. Now the major drawback on this that Imagineer John Hinch ran into was he wanted a coaster that could be fully automated. He wanted something where the ride's computer system could tell where each ride vehicle was at any given moment and be able to apply enough friction to brake areas on the track to keep the cars from slamming into each other. Now, think about that for just a second. I didn't realize this until I started, digging into this. So the ride vehicle setup on Space Mountain is it's a 2-car train. Each one seats 3 people, so you got a max capacity of 6 people per teeny tiny train. Okay, and these trains get launched one after another. I mean, it's not. They're moving at a pretty good clip. Once you clear the launch tube, like the next one's coming in there, pretty much. So what they had to do is figure out a way where, if one train had more velocity due to the weight of its passengers, it wouldn't go faster down the hills and catch up to the train in front of it and slam into it, or alternately, it wouldn't be too heavy to lose momentum going up a hill where the one behind it would hit it. So they had to have this speed control system totally automated, so there wouldn't be any injuries. Because remember, this whole thing is in complete darkness, which was the main draw. Which what it does, it did a couple things. You didn't have to dick around with theming inside, short of a few here and there pinpricks of light to simulate stars. And what made it less of a fun ride and more into a mild thrill ride was that it was pitch black and you didn't know if there was going to be a beam coming at you that'd take your head off.
And here's the thing you're talking about, Mikey. Most roller coasters, the operator can see the ride and they can see when to launch and they can get clearance on when to launch and they're told when to launch. So it's really not as difficult to control that as a man. Again, at this time in 1959 and 1960, it's not that hard to control this. But think about this: once you launch that coaster, you don't see it until it comes back again.
Just like a spaceship.
Yep.
So yeah, that's really, they had this idea, but then they were stuck with, okay, we can't do that part actually right now. But they were not daunted. They went ahead and began the modeling of this ride, and they actually started trying to model, to figure out the precise curves that they'd need to have so the physics of the car would behave the way that they think it should. And they had a computer program or engine back then that would do some of this, but it would take it a full day to render one curve, and there are many curves. To be perfect, there are twice as many curves as what you really needed.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they just pushed forward using the book written laws of physics, Morgan's law, I think, with what they kind of stuck with on figuring these curves and stuff like that. And they just expected that the technology would eventually catch up. And it did, thank God. Otherwise, I guarantee you my fat ass would have creamed a whole train of 10-year-olds my first time I rode it. So you have the technology to build this attraction, but with you need it has to have that look, that signature kind of Disney look. And like Scott said, this whole ride was basically inspired by the success of the Matterhorn in Disneyland. The Imagineers wanted that indoor, dark, totally black coaster to simulate the black vastness of space. And this, like I said, this has two effects on the passengers. It creates some sensory deprivation. So, you can hear and you can feel, but without sight in that equation, you're not sure what you're hearing or feeling. You feel wind hitting your face, and it makes it feel like you're zipping around at a pretty good clip, like you're going a whole lot faster than, like, I don't know, the Barnstormer. But it's in this inky void that, you're actually only moving at about 30 miles an hour, which makes Space Mountain the third slowest coaster on Disney property, losing out to Barnstormer at 25 miles per hour, and it just barely beats Primeval Whirl at 29.
Is it only 30 miles
Only 30.
an hour?
I'm surprised
Wow.
Primeval hits 29, Scott.
Well, there is that one like dip that is pretty.
That's the one the
steep.
guy lost his head on. Well, he was anyway. Go back and
Yes,
listen to
yes.
episode.
I don't think we talked.
Yes,
oh
we
yeah,
did.
Dinoland.
No, it was with the dark side of Disney.
Oh yeah, episode 101.
Sure. Anyway, here's one for you. The Tron coaster will actually launch you at twice the speed of Space Mountain's fastest.
Oh geez.
So there you go. Now, like I said, you've got this coaster. It's running around in the dark, except for the stars and the little glowy tube that shoots you up. So technically, I guess it's two coasters because there are two nearly identical coasters built side by side inside of Space Mountain. But
well, first of all, let's talk about this little warp tunnel thing.
okay,
The energizing tunnel. To me, I know that the theory or the story behind it is that this is the tunnel that's giving your rocket fuel to launch.
yes,
But then you go up the launch hill and it's slow and rickety, and
yeah.
I mean, isn't it time that we can get LEM magnets on that? Or
No,
LIM magnets?
no, and I bet the reason you can't goes back to the automated braking system that's built into that LEM launch is probably going to be too much for that to have any effect on, and you're only launching two cars.
I'm not saying launch them at 60 miles an hour, but I mean, if you launch up that hill at, say, 15, 20, it's going to feel a lot more like launching into space.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think there's just a lot goes into the plumbing for something like that.
Yeah, and I get it, because then the next turn off that launch hill is a complete 90, or no, it's a 180 degree around, and you would need to have bank turns added, and that's changing the track, and that would be a multi-year project.
Yeah, maybe they could build a brand new coaster in Tomorrowland that has a magnetic launch to it.
It could.
They should look
They
into
could.
that, as long as they don't fuck with my Speedway. That pissed me off. So
I actually do like the
I know
Speedway.
you do.
I wrote it on the
I
last
saw.
trip. I do like it.
Well,
It's fun.
it's great.
It's fun if you have a
It's
kid.
fun, and you get high.
Oh my god! And so
Cooked.
so
cooked.
Oh, that
Just-
you know what? That unload load area is just so bad. Like the exhaust. And look, I love the smell of exhaust. I really do. I love when a car starts and you get that CO2 smell or carbon monoxide smell. I like that a little bit. Actually, no, carbon monoxide has no smell.
We're just gonna call that. We're gonna
So
call
is
it
CO2.
ethanol.
Ethanol, whatever it is. I like it. But only for 30 seconds. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm choking.
Yeah, and when everybody talks about putting a canopy over that or something like that, that might be the very reason it's not there, because then you're just trapping those vapors above you.
Oh yeah, that would be so bad.
So-
There would be multiple deaths.
Well,
Not of guests.
Wouldn't be Disney if we'll get to it later.
That's true.
But going back to the Space Mountain and the tube, which is the inside, The outside, though, you've got this. Well, I mean, to be honest, when you think about that, the whole premise of this is that you're actually on the moon being launched back home, right?
Yes, you're in a spaceport.
Right. Well, yeah, and you're traveling back to Earth. So it looks otherworldly. I mean, futuristic, whatever you want to call it. But if you were going to have a mountain, a synthetic mountain built on a space platform, I imagine that this is what it would look like. It would be that inverted cone. Well, no, I guess it's not inverted. Anyway, it'd be a conical, with those sleek lines, and it's got the aerial antennas, and that's what really makes it cool to me, is as you look at it, like, oh, it looks cool, but then you see it's got them antennas, and you're like, well, that's actually really cool. So I think that it actually hits on that quote-unquote Disney look to make it an iconic attraction. But you know, you mentioned that it's pretty big. The Imagineers didn't want it to rival the castle because they wanted to keep the castle as the focal point here in
Right.
Magic Kingdom. So they actually stepped down the land for Space Mountain by building it 15 feet lower than the elevation of the rest of Tomorrowland.
Yeah, you actually go into the same floor, aka the first floor, as the Utilidors.
And this allowed them to build it their actual size per their drawings and stuff like that, but still have it come in at a shorter, elevation above Main Street as the castle. And it's worked out pretty well because no one goes to Magic Kingdom to see the not Matterhorn. So
Right.
to wrap up here on Space Mountain, 75, the ride finally opens up, and it was a huge deal. Disney straight up shut down the People Mover, probably because no one could find it, and actually hosted an entire marching band on the tracks to perform at this celebration opening that featured astronaut Colonel James Irwin, who was actually the lunar module pilot on the Apollo 15 mission. But, as is the way with many things in Disney, it's not meant to be a museum. And in 2009, Space Mountain underwent pretty lengthy refurb that lasted from April through November.
Yes.
And the conclusion of this refurb saw some new stuff added to the ride, saw an interactive queue and exit with adding, computer games and some simulated stuff in there, which, I mean, it's kind of the same stuff you see now, so it's real dated at this point. But they also, and this is probably the coolest thing that I saw, is in addition to having some new tracks, a new track was installed into it, was replaced, tracks were replaced in there. They actually mounted speakers underneath the tracks so you could experience the new ride music called Mount Bop, and it was presented in what they marketed as
I love this. I love this.
stereophonic sound.
Yes. Yes.
And so you got the new music in the stereophonic sound, and brand new shiny cars for both sets of tracks.
Although it's not the one thing before the 2009 refurbishment is these cars had like luminous strips.
They glowed in the dark
on the side. They glowed in the dark. Yes, they took those off because you could. It was so dark in Space Mountain that the luminous strips would actually light up the track, and you would see the track below you. So they removed them to make it even darker.
Which, I mean, makes sense, I guess. I'm kind of sad though that as a result of this refurb, unfortunately, Disney World Magic Kingdom didn't get what Disneyland got with their Space Mountain refurb, where they got the Hyperspace Mountain. Because
I know, I like the Hyperspace Mountain.
I'm told that it's way better than what we have. I say we, than what is had in Orlando. But alas, that is the Space Mountain we have right now. And for one, I thoroughly enjoyed it because I didn't expect to. I got in there, I crammed my fat ass into my wee bitty seat on a wee bitty car. And I thought, well, this is kind of dinky. And then it turned me loose in the dark. And I was freaking terrified because my ass came out of my chair twice. And I knew I was only being held in place by a carnival ride level seat restraint.
Yeah. Now, Mikey, going back to the stereophonic sound, because first of all, I love the tracks from Space Mountain dating back to the original track. And because that was the original track, the original soundtrack was composed and performed by legendary guitarist Dick Dale.
He had the Deltones.
Yes, he did. And then the second song, which I do still love, is composed by Michael Giacchino, who everybody knows from all of the Pixar movies.
Yep, they sure do.
Pretty much. But I have fond memories of the Dick Dale version. I do love it. It was like surf rock.
Yeah, it was, Miserloo.
It really was Miserloo. Pretty much.
Which nobody would even really like that if it wasn't for Quentin Tarantino.
Or Guitar Hero.
Oh, I never played that on Guitar Hero. I would have broken my fingers.
It was one of the original. It was one of the original tracks on Guitar
Hero.
Because
I've seen like a guitar tab for that, and I'm just like, no, the human body doesn't move that well. I mean,
no.
Actually, my wrist does move that quickly.
Just not in that kind of concert.
I am strumming an entirely different lute. See what I did there?
Oh boy!
Not
I
flute.
Did.
I said
lute.
No,
you got it right the first time.
No. I know, but I said lute because you don't strum a flute, but you will strum a lute. Damn it, Scott!
Is that what you're calling it these days?
Well, you know what? It gets a little medieval.
But yeah, no, I do like the refurbishments to Space Mountain. I do enjoy the padded seats.
I mean, yeah, it's got some cotton in there, I guess.
It's dude, before that it was rock hard. You were literally, kidney stones were not a problem after that ride.
I've never had them.
The chiropractic adjustment was.
I don't know. See, I like a bumpy ride to snap and pop my crackles.
Oh, it snaps, crackles, and pops, I'll tell you that.
Fucking cut some strawberries up and pour the milk, baby. We got breakfast.
Yeah. So, off-ride, keeping with music, is one of the most popular songs of all time is that Star Tunnel song. As you leave Space Mountain. And thank God it's still there to this day.
And by leave, you mean you probably end up standing still on the conveyor belt because the kids in front of you won't walk.
But I like that conveyor belt. It's your last moment of AC before you re-enter the Florida sun.
Yeah, I know, I guess. No, I'm told that you can see the people mover from that, right?
In the ride itself, yes. When the people mover goes by, the scene where the astronauts are working on the telescope and you can kind of see them upside down. You can see and hear the Space Mountain going.
Huh.
Which is why they painted all those walls black and essentially made the ride, or made the people mover track curvy, because they wanted as many curves before light gets through to that ride.
That's how you do a home theater if you want it to be good. You put yourself a little Z-shaped Tetris piece in there to help block as much light from bouncing in as possible.
Bingo. But very cool. Now you've ridden Space Mountain.
Yes.
Take on it.
Oh, like I said, I loved it because it's a classic, and if you've never ridden it, my opinion, it's better than you expect going into it, because you walk into it expecting kid ride, and because it's so dark And because my wife is terrified of somebody losing an arm when they lift it up, you basically, it's you know what it is? It's like going to that store as a kid with your parents that had all the glassware and breakables and you keep your hands in your pockets.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, you don't know what's coming up, and it's so dark, and you can hear other people screaming, which doesn't help. I mean, it helps the ride, but it doesn't help, you know, your nerves, I guess. And it was a lot of fun. I love little roller coasters. That's why I love the Barnstormer. You know, I loved this. I love Primeval. I love little roller coasters.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my more favorite mountains in Magic Kingdom. I like Thunder Mountain. I love Splash Mountain, but I really love Space Mountain. I can't wait until Ethan's tall enough because then I'll have someone to ride it with. Andrea rode this once when she was like 8, and she's not ridden it since.
Oh.
Yeah. I love, you know, there's some fun things that have happened in Space Mountain's history. It got a little goofy in the mid-90s, like everything Disney parks. Michael Eisner wanted to get as many celebrities as possible into the parks because he thought, hey, you know, people like celebrities.
Yeah, they do.
People will like Disney with celebrities. So in the mid-90s, as you were waiting in the queue, they did a Six Flags thing, and they would put TVs in the queue where you would watch the TV as you got onto the ride. And so they had like a futuristic MTV kind of channel called, you ready for this, Mikey? SMTV.
Okay. I was thinking FTV, but that's a different thing entirely on the internet. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. Don't do it.
I do recommend you Google SMTV and YouTube that because there's some awesome clips, featuring commercials because it was kind of a TV series or a TV show, TV channel. The commercials for Crazy Larry's Used Spaceships, which featured Charles Fleischer, who's the voice of Roger Rabbit, as the dealership owner.
He's a really good stand-up comedian.
He is. And then several other sci-fi themed ads promoting FedEx's delivery service, who was the sponsor at the time.
Oh, well, nowadays
FedEx,
it'd be Amazon, I'm sure.
Yes, FedEx goes into space, so that.
And this was on the channel S&M TV?
No, SMTV, Space Mountain Television.
Fair enough.
I've had to switch from the Ardbeg drum because I don't want to drink that all up.
That's why I get a big jug of cheap whiskey because I know how I is. I have you know what, I'll say this. I have had 2 pours out of my porthole and I've got 2 pours left.
Oh, that's good. That's
a really, I mean, that's a dangerous amount. That's for I would say they're probably healthy pours. Normal. Yep, it's good. Well, on the cruise ship, it's meant to serve 2 people, and I think it was like $15 for 2 people, basically.
You know what's funny is the booze on the cruise,
if you get it mixed,
was quite inexpensive.
If you get it mixed, it's very, very reasonable. If you wanted a pour of the Statesman or a pour of the Jack Daniel's Sinatra, you were going to pay out the ass for it. But if you wanted your
Jack Daniel's,
you want that Manhattan made out of it, shit, man,
$17
all day long, and you get the Luxardo and that dirty sugar all around the rim.
Smoked sugar. The cruise booze was pretty epic. I mean, shit. You get a Captain's Mai Tai at Disney. It's gonna run you what, $14, $13? Captain's Mai Tai when it was Mai Tai Mondays or whatever it was, $5.
Listen, you get up, you go have some breakfast. No, you don't even go have breakfast. You just get up, you go to the Cove, and you just drink half price screwdrivers until breakfast.
Yep. And then you go get breakfast because the Cove is not far from Shutters.
What's a Shutters?
That's the
Oh,
buffet.
we had cabanas.
Oh, Cabanas. That's what it's called. It was Shutters and then Cabanas. That's right.
And
It's
then
Cabanas.
you get like
now.
all the eggs Benedicts.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes, please.
And potato cakes. I want to go on a cruise now, Scott. I'm so hungry.
Me too. I miss the Disney cruise. Yeah, so one of the other kind of cameos that you would see in this is, finally in 1993, the legendary and most absolute critically acclaimed TV show quits filming, ceases to run as new episodes. Saved by the Bell.
Oh,
And Mario Lopez is looking for
I
work.
thought it was My Two Dads.
No. Mario Lopez is looking for work, and what better place to do that than Disney World? So he actually filmed some ads and a commercial for SMTV.
Hey, the guy actually has had a pretty successful career as Mario Lopez. Maybe not
Yes.
so much as AC the Slater. I mean, you know what? I would say we see more of him than we do Mark Paul.
Mark Paul's
Now,
got a show
we
or two
saw-
here and there.
Everything of Elizabeth Berkley.
And everything of Dustin Diamond.
Yep, he did the Dirty Sanchez video with some hookers.
Yep.
But not near enough Lisa Turtle. She did the How High
No.
movie, and that was basically it. But of course, I mean, once
Yeah.
Method Man and Red Man, you've peaked. It's time to just hang it up, and she went crazy.
Yeah. So obviously, Lark Voorhees is no longer working in film. But
And right now, for everybody scratching their head trying to figure out what the holy hell Saved by the Bell has to do with Disney, I want you to go look up who Miss Bliss is. I'll wait.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Fucking A,
Polly
that's
Mills.
right.
Pollyanna and
Parent Trap.
Parent Trap
Before
Pollyanna.
it got all coked out.
Also Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah. She's Disney royalty, I think. Is she dead?
No, I don't think so.
Oh. Good. I mean, I don't mean good. I'm just
I think
saying.
she's dead. No, she's alive.
Okay, well, there you
She's
go.
alive.
There you go, Sheeters. Miss Bliss. You're welcome.
Her father was the John Mills was in Swiss Family Robinson.
Mr. Bell
So, yeah.
got fat.
Yes, he did. I saw him at a beach party in Atlantic City, and by beach party I mean in a pool party in a dome in April. It's not pretty, man.
Hang on.
Not pretty.
But was he talking to people? Like, were there
Oh,
fans
he
of
was
his,
he
like,
was
wanting to talk
he was
to
the
him?
MC. He was the MC
Okay.
of the party. Not pretty. Not pretty.
I don't know. I would still have to... Yeah, I would. I'd climb that mountain.
Climb what mountain?
There's always another mountain. That's what Hannah Montana said.
Wait a minute.
I'm going full. You know what? I'm trying to bring this back to Disney, buddy.
Okay, bring it back. But yeah, definitely, I would go check out the SMTV loop. You can check it out on YouTube. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Dude, this shit tastes like Kool-Aid right now. It's been it's been soaking in the porthole since about 6 o'clock,
Oh dear Lord.
and I'm down to the bottom bits of it. And I'll tell you right now, I'm my brain says you shouldn't bite into any of that fruit.
But you're going to.
But my sheeter in me says, "Oh,
Hey, that's healthy.
eat that cherry."
Hey, that's a fruit salad that is healthy for you.
That is a fruit something. That's
also-
that's a meaty wedges is all
Yeah.
that is.
So keeping in the 70s, the Astro Orbiter has been around since 19. Really, let's be serious. It's been around since 56. Okay. In 1956, the first rocket spinner attraction opened at Disneyland. It's the Astrojets. It's on the ground. At Disneyland, it's on the ground level. So when 1971 came around, they decided, hey, let's bump that up. Well, we got other shit to do in Disney World. Okay, but we got to put rides in Tomorrowland. Nothing's going to open with rides. Yeah. We'll get to it. In 1974, 3 years after Disney World opens, they finally create the Astro Orbiter in Magic Kingdom. So instead of doing it right on the ground level like they did in Magic Kingdom, they needed a home for the People Mover and a way to get up to the People Mover, so they built essentially a platform for that, and then on top of that platform would be the Astro Orbiters. So about 60 feet above the ground is where you start, and basically you go around just like every spinning ride. You spin around 11 rotations per minute. It goes about 1.2 million miles a year. That's a real thing. That's a lot of spinning.
It is. It's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
Mathematically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
However, hang on. See, you opened up this can of worms, Scott, and I'm so sorry for this.
Okay. Don't be. Wait.
What is traveling? What is measured in that traveling? Is it the inner part of that circumference that's actually moving?
The outer part.
Okay, so it's now it swings out and swings in. So are they taking all of that into effect? Because it's not going.
It's the same. It's a circumference. It's the same. Essentially, every rocket is the same.
Oh, it doesn't swing, but it goes up and down. That's going to change it. Because I bet when it goes up, then it is closer to the center of that than when it's, because the length of that arm doesn't change.
Yes,
so,
right. Scott,
I'm sorry, it's your Scott math again.
Technically, you're right. It does get closer to the center when it goes up.
Yep. Listen.
You know what, Mikey? I'll let you figure that out. You figure it. You calculate.
No, I don't math.
I want you to take a, you can take your GPS and you can see how many miles around it goes if you ride that for a year straight.
No. What I'm going to do is nothing, because I know limitations of my brain. I don't just run off here spurting, talking about shit I don't know about. Regolith. It's a thing.
I bet it is.
You don't know what? Scott.
Regolith?
Regolith. And it's applicable.
How do you spell that?
With an R.
Yeah, I know that.
And an egolith.
Regolith. Oh, it's the moon dust.
Ah, how about that shit?
I just called it moon dust.
Right? It's called regolith.
Interesting.
That
makes sense.
It does make sense because I said it.
Yeah. So not much has really changed about the Astro Orbiters. Now the planets have gotten kind of a facelift. They've actually become, just rather than kind of unnamed and themed planets, they actually have painted them the planets of the solar system. So that's kind of cool.
Are they in the right order?
No, absolutely not. Now the ride, for a while, when Tomorrowland was in that kind of like, we're a city and here's our Chamber of Commerce, this was not briefly, for 15 years, was named the League of Planets Astro Orbiter. So kind of like the Chamber of Commerce kind of thing for space.
The Galactic Senate.
Yeah, the Galactic Senate. So, it's fun. You do it once. I will say, of the spinny rides, it's probably the best one because you are high up and it is a little more thrilling than Dumbo and Aladdin's and Triceratops Spin.
It's a great place to watch the fireworks.
Yep. Yes, it is.
It's not.
Well, it is. It is.
You see it and you don't see it, and you see it and you don't see it, and you see it and you don't see it. 12.4 million miles later, you're trying to figure out exactly what the hell just happened.
Well, it's more like 15 rotations because it's like a minute and a half ride.
I thought 11 rotations per minute. I got you.
Mm-hmm. It's like 15 or 16 rotations that you actually get to do.
And those fireworks are going off like directly over your head too.
Yeah, they are.
So it's like you got to look up while you're spinning around in a circle, and you're just going to get dizzy.
Oh yeah. So it's kind of cool. Now this is one of the rides that they have almost at every theme park. Disneyland has one. It's, like I said, it's on the ground. Tokyo Disneyland has one also above the People Mover, and that's above on a platform. That's the Star Jets. Disneyland Park Paris has one, but theirs is more of like a planetarium inside of a rocket. So it's kind of cool. It's called the Orbitron.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's more... Tomorrowland in Disney Paris is more like steampunk. It's really cool.
Which is literally the opposite of Tomorrowland.
Yeah. Also, it is on the ground floor. Hong Kong Disneyland has their kind of like, instead of rockets, they're flying saucers, and that's their, I forget what they call this.
Ass.
Nah, yeah. But it's 4 riders per saucers instead of 2, so it's 2 by 2.
Oh.
And then, yeah. And then Shanghai Disneyland has the jetpacks. And basically, it's kind of the same thing. There's a giant kind of like ball in the center, and then the arms kind of swing out, and you get the kind of arms that move off of it.
Okay.
And then they've got the little thing at the top. But yeah, they're jetpacks instead of rockets.
So are your feet dangling?
Let me see here. I think so.
That sounds like I could get behind something like that. If your feet dangled. And if you had like actual input to control the pitch of the arms like you do on Triceratops Spin.
Nope, they're balls.
That's a damn shame, Disney. Missed opportunity.
They are balls.
You know,
Oh wait, no, yeah, your feet kind of dangle. I would say and I mean your feet dangle. They kind of like hang over like any other roller coaster seat. They're basically those, like Batman the roller coaster.
Nope.
Any one of those like dangle feet roller coasters. They basically your feet dangle from like the knee down. Not as free as soaring because there's a giant seat behind you. So it's basically you can kick your legs forward and then they kind of stop at 90 degrees.
That's why Disney should hire me.
Well, they should.
Yes, they should.
Yeah, so jetpacks at Shanghai. Again, not the worst ride, however, the worst queue. Because essentially the queue at Disney World is a line wrapped around the People Mover, which is probably why you didn't find it. And then you get into a cramped elevator with all of the other people that you need to ride this with, and it smells, it is sweaty, it is a glass box in Florida with sun beating on it.
It's a glass case of emotion.
Oh, and milk was a bad choice.
So would be cheese, I imagine.
Yep, and guess where cheese lives? The only place cheese lives. At Cosmic Rays, where you can get the cheese sauce for an extra $1.
Oh, that's not really cheese. That's just plastic.
Yeah.
Like melted drink straws from the 70s.
Yes. So the last kind of space attraction that we wanted to talk about, because we don't want to get into talking about Horizons without Adam, because he'll be really, really mad that he didn't get to talk about his favorite ride of all time.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're coming to me with this, because I got a lot of notes on Horizons. So we're going with it.
Oh, do you?
Well, yeah, of course. I did my research.
Oh, well, yes, because Mission Space took over for Horizons. So, Mikey, tell us about Mission Space.
Okay, get your bags ready, kids.
Are we going to Mesa Verde?
We are. We're going. We're orange team in this one.
Oh yeah, baby.
So, in the early 2000s, Disney embarked on
in the year 2000.
It's funny because they still did that like in 2001, and they just kept rolling with it. I mean, that's Conan for you. Disney in the early 2000s, Disney embarked on probably one of their most ambitious builds to happen in Disney World at that point. But we got to go back a little further before we could talk about what they did with Mission Space, because it wasn't the first ride to be in that location. Originally, you had the attraction called Horizons, And as Scott alluded to, Horizons is a sore spot with a lot of old school Disney fans. It's been touted by a lot of people as being Epcot's best ever attraction.
Let's not go that far.
Well, okay, when I say a lot of people, I mean the 3 Twitter handles that I checked out in the research.
Yes.
Now,
there are quite a few people that still cry every night to sleep because the loss of Horizons.
It was certainly one of Epcot's probably more popular rides, or attractions. I'm going to call it an attraction because it was basically heralded by a lot of park goers as like the sequel to Carousel of Progress, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like a continuation of the story after Grandma straps on her VR rig.
Yes, it was. It was essentially a sequel to Carousel of Progress. And,
not that Disney rests on its laurels at times, but a lot like Carousel of Progress, Horizon was, big honking theater kind of thing. It did also have a corporate sponsor, and it depended on the corporate sponsorship to help offset the cost of operating it. But in the 90s, GE, General Electric, funny. What other attraction did they sponsor?
That would be Carousel of Progress, Mikey.
I'll be damned. You know what, Disney? This is a fool me once, shame on me situation. But in the 90s, GE pulled out of their sponsorship of Horizons, causing the upper management and bean counters at Disney parks to kind of look back at the attraction as kind of producing an annual loss. So they kind of started scaling it back, and the ride eventually, they shut it down and decided to move forward with plans for a new ride. And there's a lot of rumor mill going around about what this ride was going to be. Ironically, they were pretty much all accurate because the rumor was that it was going to be a space ride, and that's what we got. We got Mission Space,
which everyone calls Mission to Mars.
Yeah, well, because that's where you're going.
Yes, Mission to Mars was already a ride. This is Mission Space.
Now, what makes Mission Space at this time so infamous is that rather than just repurposing the existing Horizons show building, Disney was forced to kind of absolutely demolish it down to the nothing.
Well, now there's a secondary reason for that, is that the Horizon show building also had a sinkhole, and one of the reasons that it was so expensive to maintain was they had to keep that sinkhole from imploding.
Well, also it wasn't big enough to house what they were wanting to put there, so they couldn't shoehorn it in there because they saved $10 million by cutting some corners on Horizons and making the actual attraction somewhat smaller than the Imagineers and the architects had originally designed. So because of that, and the it is Florida, so there's actually a sinkhole.
Right.
They had to just start over. And that's not really something that up to this point Disney had really done before. They just kind of shoved stuff in, but this time they just took it all the way down. So the Horizons building it's gone. It's only there in your dreams, imagination, memories, and YouTube. So what Disney does is they team up with NASA, and they're wanting to make this space experience, and they worked closely with astronauts and also some of the technicians at NASA to come up with a ride experience that would really give guests kind of an experience of what a space training was like, but had enough science fact in the story that it wouldn't come off as overly cartoonish. You didn't want to just have somebody imagine what it would be like to do this. They got with NASA to actually sit down and figure out what you would actually go through on a trip to Mars. How long you would have to be, stored in cryo sleep, which, newsflash, it's longer than they got Walt frozen for. Well, maybe not. No.
Yeah.
No, no. You'd be on Mars by now if you, anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on from Frozen Disney pops. What the astronauts and technicians ended up, coming up with would be something that really gave the guests an experience of traveling out of not just the Earth's own gravity well, but out of the the orbit that everybody's used to seeing, because usually you go on these things, you just get to the moon and back. Well, I guess not really. Tomorrowland had Mission to Mars, but what they had is this story that wouldn't come off as cartoonish, and they had the science tech and had a concept for it, and they actually had the Hollywood tie-in with the 2000 film release Mission to Mars.
Mm-hmm. Which starred
someone you can't find on the ride now. It had Lieutenant Dan himself,
who was also in Apollo 13.
Oh yeah, I was going to say CSI. Yeah, Apollo 13 with the Tom Hanks.
The Tom Hanks,
who was also in Forrest Gump
and
Saving Private Ryan's.
Yep.
So yeah, you actually, it was kind of a perfect storm, because they had the Hollywood movie tie-in, they had the guy from the movie and the thing, and everyone's like, going to Mars. Why would we go to Mars? There's nothing on Mars. We don't know that for sure, do we? Because Don Cheadle found water. So anyway, Disney begins construction on their woefully underestimated $100 million attraction called Mission Space, right on top of the ground where Horizons once stood. Now, here's... Scott, you've ridden it, right?
Many, many times.
You've ridden Orange?
I've done both now.
Okay. So how this kind of works, if you've done like your basic fair ride, the Gravitron or whatever, you know that at the core of it is a centrifuge. But what you do is you get strapped into this little 4-seat coat closet that's just 4 of blinking, beeping lights and display screens.
Mm-hmm.
And this oversized coffin is attached to an arm that allows for about 45 degrees of pitch and 125 degrees of roll. So, you've got its own static movement, but the arms, they're attached to this big-ass bicycle wheel of a centrifuge that slings your little blinking butter tub in a circle at 35 miles per hour. That's faster than Space Mountain. And you end up pulling 2.5 Gs.
Which is a lot.
It is. It is.
For a ride, it's pretty intense. Now,
it is sustained 2.5 Gs. This isn't like you go down and you hit the bottom and you come up. This is, I would say it's a good probably 35 seconds of 2.5 Gs from the start. And then another 35 seconds of 2.5 Gs when you're kind of getting into Mars. Right. Now,
it's pretty intense.
The whole time you're dealing with this, you're being given tasks
yes.
by mission control back on Earth. And this is where you would have had Gary Sinise, who just looked like he was excited to be a part of that.
If you haven't, I'm guessing that a number of our shooters have ridden this ride before. But if you have not, go Google the pre-show and watch Gary Sinise just give the performance of a lifetime. He is just so filled with emotion in this. It makes me want to run through a brick wall.
The way his mouth doesn't move when he speaks, or almost, it moves a little bit. It's like watching an amateur ventriloquist try to convince you they're not really doing the talking and that it's really dummy. It's like when he's talking, he always has a toothpick in his mouth. He doesn't want to fall out.
Yeah,
it's the bare minimum of motion. So yeah, but he does all of his acting with his eyes. So you really get drawn into the character.
Oh, it really is some amazing acting.
Now, and like I said, he's not there now. But if you think that the loss of Gary Sinise is why you get a little queasy when you ride it, you're not 100% wrong. So when it originally opened, it wasn't obviously the ride we have today. It had only one queue system, and everybody who rode it experienced the same sensation of 2.5 times the normal gravity of Earth. What this comes down to is that if you weigh in at 200 pounds, if you're a 200-pound man, it's going to feel like you're an easy 500 pounds when you're in this chair, okay? So when you move your arms and legs to push the button or look to your right to see how your kids are doing down at the end because
which you do not do.
Well, I did, but I'm a crazy person. And really you can't move a whole hell of a lot because those displays that we mentioned earlier are like 2 inches from your face. I mean, this is small.
Oh, it's tiny. Now, there are vomit bags for you, Mikey.
There are, but you're never going to reach it when this is going on. If anything coming out of your mouth is going right up your nose. Okay?
True. Or it actually, there is a point where you get, it's very briefly, where you get 0G.
Right. Well, it happens right after you've gone through 30 seconds of 2.5 Gs. You immediately go back into a simulated sensation of weightlessness.
It's so cool.
And it's weird though because all of that stacked on top, and then you go back into hitting G's, the back and forth and the blinking lights, and they're telling you to push a button. And someone over there is like, I can't figure it out. And he's like, don't worry, we've got it. Don't worry, we handled it from here. You're an idiot. All of that causes a lot of anxiety, which can lead to a lot of nausea. And Disney was prepared for this when they opened the ride. They had a little station.
Yeah, they had a little infirmary.
Yeah, where when you exited because they work with NASA, and NASA's like, people are not going to handle this well, and they're like, we got this. We're going to build a bigger closet. And you could go to the infirmary. You could get some nausea meds. You could kind of sit there and clear your head, splash water on your face. Try your best to compose yourself so you didn't end up walking around the park with stains on your clothes as a result of the Code V, the cast members would call it.
Now, fun fact, pro tip. We give pro tips from time to time. Episode 1, I gave you the Lapu Lapu tip. Pro tip, if you do vomit, I believe they give you an orange shirt to wear.
Oh, really?
I believe they do.
Well, fair enough. I mean, it's never been an issue for me, but when me and my wife wrote it, we wrote it twice back to back. The first time we wrote it with me, her, both of them. Are there 4 stations or 5 inside there?
4.
I think it's 4. Yeah, we wrote it.
There's 2 green, 2 orange.
Okay.
Or 3 orange, 1 green now.
So we rode with. I think we had one of our kids with us, and then the other kid rode with Ricky and another one and some strangers. And we had a fast pass. We walk on fast pass, and it was still a 10-minute wait. So we were like, let's do it again. So we did it again. But the second time, my wife and I decided to have our own little sex box to ourselves, and we rode it just fine. And we both handled, all the stuff being thrown at us by Gary. And got out with no issues.
Did you sit side by side or like in the middle ones?
We actually sat
2 and 4, like seat 2 and 4 rather than 1.
No, I think we were 1 and 4.
Okay.
So one of us had 1 and 2, and someone else had 3 and 4. Because I don't think we wanted to be side by side. Because we're married. We do that enough.
Oh, gotcha.
So, anyway, yeah, we wrote it. We liked it. But apparently, a lot of people didn't like it. And when folks started dying, Disney decided to make a change.
Yes.
And people did die. Not like they died
because
of it, but, I mean, they.
2 people died, and both of them had pre-existing conditions.
Of the circulatory system.
Yes.
So, heed the warnings. It's not like you can't find the warnings. They're everywhere. But because of this and the litigation and the bad press that Disney was getting, they were attracting a reputation, this ride was, for the...
dangerous.
Yeah. They made a change. Now, they couldn't rebuild the ride system because that would require
Lots and lots of money.
A whole lot of money and a star attraction in an area that didn't have very many attractions being shut down for a while. So the Imagineers thought about it, and they thought about it, and I'm sure some guy in the back said, hey, what if they just didn't spin?
And, yeah, that worked.
And that was actually mentioned by Imagineer Howard Green, and with that we had the Green Team.
No way.
No way at all, Scott. I made that shit up.
Oh. Damn it.
Sorry. That's where you have the green version, which is the less intense version, which is basically if the ride broke down but you still got to get on it, that's what you got.
You still get the pitch and you still get the pivot and you still get the motion. It's not as intense.
No,
it's not intense at all.
It is Star Tours in a shoebox.
Yes.
Basically.
Now, for my 5-year-old son, he thinks this is the greatest ride ever.
Is that orange or green?
Green. He's not tall enough to go on green yet, or on orange yet.
Okay.
Orange, you have to be 44 inches. Green, you only need to be 40.
Right. Well,
which is amazing because there was one of the people that died was a 4-year-old kid who rode the original version of this, which is pretty damn intense. I mean, no offense, but that's bad parenting.
Yes, that's just sneaking them past the cast member because you know better.
Yeah, right? Well, you knew better.
Now, if you paid attention to early 2000 news paper articles around the Orlando area or just doing researches on back history for Disney, the overall opinion of Mission Space was not very welcome due to the fact that it replaced Horizons, and then it also had the issues with the vomiting, the nausea, the people come off just not feeling well, and then a couple of fatalities.
I've ridden this numerous times with people. There isn't generally a ride where someone in my party this is the first and last time they ride it.
Yeah. And
for one of them, it wrecked her whole day. Like, she did not feel well. They had to go back to the resort. They had to relax for a while, and then they met us for dinner later on. But it wrecked them for a day.
It was a well-intended attraction that was supposed to reflect the facts of science regarding space travel, and it got the NASA approval, but that only helped it so far. And while it was supposed to ultimately spawn more curiosity about space and space travel and NASA, it actually probably may have actually countered that a little bit in the early years of it because it wasn't that great because of the stigma that it had. But Disney, not to back down from a challenge, they've doubled down in the wake of the success of Mission Space Green and Orange. And then also I'm going to say they probably look at the success that SpaceX is having with their launches and how close space flight may be for tourism and stuff like that. So with the quest for space remaining high, Disney is building a space-themed restaurant adjacent to Mission Space.
Which you can see from when you go around Test Track.
And that's slated to open up sometime later this year. It's looking like it's going to have some really good food offerings, I think, based on the staff of it here. But it seems odd to put a restaurant themed after space so close to something where people serve food to cast members so frequently with their code V's. So I don't get. I mean, I get why they put it there, but at the same time, it's just one of those things. Like, did you really think it through? Because you write it before you go before you go eat at I don't know, Mission Eat or whatever the hell they're going to call it.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be... I think it's just been called Space.
Huh.
I'm not sure if they have a name for the restaurant yet, but you can see it as you go around the turn for the outside turn for Test Track. Very, very big. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Well,
It's tall.
Well, because it has that whole sky dome thing that it's going to have in there, which is going to be crazy. So
it's also going to be a 2-story restaurant with, I think, the workings underneath and essentially the storage and stuff and everything's going to be underneath the workings. The kitchen upstairs, it's going to be big, and you can see where they've got the windows that are going to be put in because there's big giant. Essentially, it's a cinder block building right now, cylindrical, and there's big giant openings, like rectangle openings through the cinder block. So I don't know if that's where the screens are going to go, and then they're going to have something housed in there. I'm not sure, but it should be pretty interesting. So either the outer shell or the inner shell has started to be built. I'd still say it's about a year and a half away.
See, and they say that it's supposed to open in 2019. Like, even if you go to Disney and look it up, they still say 2019.
I'd say it's a year away at minimum.
And I just don't. Yeah, I didn't think so.
Well, that rings true because Horizons closed in 98 and Mission Space didn't open until, 2000? 99, 2000?
Yep. Well, no, Mission Space was like early 2000, like 03, I think, maybe?
No, it was open in 2000, I thought. Because I wrote it in 2000. At least I thought I did. When did it open? 2003, yeah.
Looky there, I researched.
Yeah. It was my second trip that I wrote it. But yeah, very cool. Great ride. Love it.
I like it.
Big fan. But I also look, Mikey and I have an affinity for space travel.
Of course we do.
Well, you love space, science fiction TV shows. You love Firefly.
See, you went there.
I did go there.
That's where you went. You want to go ahead and just piss me off. So you want to talk about Firefly.
I love Star Trek, Star Wars.
Disney owns Fox now. Maybe they can.
Do. They're not
give me my Shepherd book. No, they can't bring back Firefly because Wash is dead. Spoilers. Fuck y'all. They can't bring back Firefly, but they can tell me who Shepherd Book was before he ever offered a strawberry to sweet little Kaylee.
That means nothing to me.
Well, it means everything to me.
I don't know it.
It means everything to me and C-Maj Namdoog.
Well, speaking of the C-Maj, he is also a big Trekkie like myself. I love the idea of going to space. I have been hooked on NASA documentaries the last couple of weeks because of the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission. I am so enthralled by this. I love this. I love this ride. I love Mission Space. Love doing it. I love going on it. Very cool. Very, very cool. And even the green side, but I have not been able to do the orange side for a while because my wife will not go on it again. She loved it the first time, and then the second time she rode it, she turned her head sideways and got a little nauseous. And by all means, kids, do not turn your head sideways. Keep looking at the screen, and you'll be just fine. You turn your head sideways, you start to lose your sense of going forward, and you realize, holy shit, I'm spinning.
You are spinning.
Yep.
35 miles per hour.
Yeah. So, I have not ridden the orange side in a while, but the green side was still fun. It was a lot of fun. You do kind of like an orbital flight around the Earth, and then you land you land it really in Canaveral, Florida.
Oh, so it's actually it's a different.
It's a totally
film.
different experience. Yeah.
Oh.
So the green side basically. You're still learning. You're in your early stages of training. So basically, you launch from Florida, and then you head west across the continent. You can see the Grand Canyon. They go past San Francisco, You actually fly over the ISS, the International Space Station. You actually cross paths with the Orange Side X2 that's launching from the Pacific, and they're launching on their way to Mars. So you actually see the other X2 rocket that's launching. You go to Japan, China, Beijing at night. It's all lit up. The Great Wall, you kind of see the Great Wall from space, which is one of the few man-made structures you can see from space. You head over the Himalayas. You can see India at night, which is, again, it's nighttime in India. The entire continent, or the entire country, is just lit up with lights. You fly over the Middle East, and then the Nile River, which is kind of cool because the Nile, it's, again, still night at this time, but the entire Nile River, you can see the lights on each side of it because essentially the entire country of Egypt, basically the civilization is on the Nile River. And then you head up towards Europe. You see Greece, Italy, and then Paris, which has, again, more lights around it because it's dark. And then you fly over the Arctic Circle, and you can see the northern lights as they kind of dance on the horizon. It's pretty cool. And then you kind of return back to Florida, and so this is where your kind of drama comes into the ride. You know, because it wouldn't be a Disney ride without something going wrong. There's a thunderstorm in Florida. I know. Hold your breath. It is difficult to imagine. There is a thunderstorm going on in Florida when you land. So you have to land through the thunderstorm, and that's where you kind of take control of your ship, and they tell you which way to fly, turn to the left, turn to the right, blah, 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 center. You know, I wish those joysticks had a little more, like, feel to them, a little more tension to them, because they're really too much give, to be realistic.
You know what? Here we go back to Star Wars, but the videos I've seen of people flying the Millennium Falcon, the joysticks that you have to operate, it just looks like it's just free floating up and down and left and right.
I bet it is.
And
I bet it
it's
is.
just, you know, Also, I don't think that's how you fly the Millennium Falcon, but I don't know.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. I'll have to go back and look because I've seen a little bit of the show. I'm not one that's going to be like, no spoilers, because I ain't riding the shit for a while.
Well, they don't let you bring cameras in. What they've got is Disney-produced footage, which basically they show a little bit of what you saw, and they have their own cameras mounted in, and then, you know, you get to get that footage, so you get your reactions and stuff. And the cockpit footage of the actual people participating in the flying, that's where it doesn't look like there's any friction or feedback on it, because these people are just slamming it all the way forward and slamming it all the way back. So I don't know if it's like an analog video game controller where it has an infinite number of stops from 0 to 10, so to speak, as you move it. It just
Yeah. So
Sarah Ford can tell us.
Yeah, it's a fun ride. I enjoyed it. I really did, and partly I enjoyed it because my son was absolutely thrilled by it. Like, it was thrilling for him. But that's, you know, neither here nor there. Still a great ride. Still like Mission Space Green. Can't wait for him to be tall enough to do orange.
That orange is. It's fun.
It's intense. It's intense.
It is. It's a whole lot of just being pinned to the back of the seat, and you think you're a man, so you push your head forward just to show that you can. But if you do it too much, you will get a headache. So just keep that shit back against the seat backs.
Now, my wife commented on this trip, because we rode Mission Space a couple times, because the green side is like a walk-on. It's like a 10-minute wait, max. I like to play with all the buttons pre-flight. I love flicking the switches that don't do anything.
Yeah.
I love it. It is one of the best things about that ride.
You think they have a cast member comes in after everybody does it and flicks them all back down where they're supposed to be?
Nope. I don't know. I think that's one of the best parts is, like, you're sitting there, the thing has come forward, and you're waiting there for a good I would say minute and a half, 2 minutes, and you just get to push all the buttons.
Man, you've got to get your thermocouple registering 0.
Yeah.
You've got to
Stir the oxygen tanks.
Turbines to speed.
Yep. I mean, you have to go through your pre-flight checklist because you got to. I mean, you got to. If you don't, something's going to go wrong. I mean, we've seen what happens to the Saturn IV rockets.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Mark Watney didn't do so well, and he was stuck on Mars.
Yeah. So definitely make sure you go through your pre-flight checklist. Well, look, that's really it for the space attractions. I'd love to see more of the space exploration, the science side of space, especially in Tomorrowland. I really wish they would do that.
I really think they won't because...
Yeah, I know they won't.
Science, man.
Science is quick to catch up. As we saw from the flight to the moon, even in 1971. So they're planning this for 1971. They release it in 1971, and by 1971, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a tough thing to do, and that's why I think Mission Space has worked out as far as like timelines go, because it's set 75 years in the future, or 17 years from now.
Where's my flying car?
Yeah.
My floating skateboard.
Yeah. So by 2036, we're all supposed to be training to go to the moon or go to Mars.
Well, I mean, it could. It could happen, because if I know you think 15 years isn't that far away, but think about the last 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
What we've achieved in like space exploration.
Yeah, and it's not like we haven't really explored.
No.
Okay, but just making
progress.
Yeah, progressing to getting into space, like outside, like I said, the gravity well of Earth, and getting up where you have weightlessness, where the space station is, launching satellites, how we've made that more economical than it was
50 years ago.
Well,
Or
7
20
years ago.
7 years ago, yeah.
All right. NASA's talking about launching another rocket now.
Yeah, NASA's coming back.
You know, the boys are getting back, man.
Yeah, the band's back together. By the way, I was on the plane ride down. I was watching. I had downloaded the Grand Tour, and they also kind of did a special on NASA. Someone owns Neil Armstrong's Chevrolet Corvette Stingray.
I mean, someone owns everything, Scott.
But these guys were like rock stars.
Rocket stars.
Rocket stars. Rocket men.
Regolith men.
Regolith men. It's just, it's cool. And I
if you believe the propaganda.
Yes. I long for space travel to be a thing. I'm waiting for the Vulcans to come down and give us their live long and prosper, and then we get into space travel and launch the Enterprise.
No.
From Planitia Utopia.
From Iowa.
No, it was from Idaho. That was the Phoenix. Well,
they are the freaking same.
Montana. No. I know James.
There was corn.
James is probably yelling at the radio. No, Zephyrin Cochrane.
He's literally. It's like 4 p.m. where he is, or some crazy bullshit like that. Sun isn't going to set until 3 a.m.
He's yelling at me. No, it was Montana. They launched from Bozeman, Montana, up to and did their orbital flight and got past, I think, Jupiter, and that's where the Vulcans found them.
Well, all I know is that Kirk kid done crashed his daddy's Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
To
that
the
was in
Beastie
Iowa.
Boys.
He was in Iowa. He was
See?
from
Iowa, Idaho, whatever. Potatoes and corn, man.
Yep. So
vodka
what
and
would you want
bourbon.
to most see if Disney did more space attractions? Like, do you want educational or do you want more like science fiction movie based?
I think the inherent problem with educational is we don't know. Honestly, we don't. The amount that we know about space, be it travel, exploration, or the interstellar bodies, the celestial bodies that are, it fits on the head of a needle. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there is enough actual knowledge, and at the same time, everything you would do would have to be ridiculously simulated to try to make it seem like it's real, and you don't know for sure that it's real. You
Right.
know what? I could probably get behind an attraction, an experience, call it what you will, of it's kind of silly, but I mean similar to what goes on in Armageddon.
Okay.
With a comet. Because that's something that you know exists. Granted,
Right.
it doesn't look like it is drawn in every cartoon or comic book.
True.
A comet does not look like that. But there's so much that goes on with a comet. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be something that takes place where you have to go land upon it. But just imagine being in the International Space Station when a comet was coming by and it happened to have a debris field that was going to come in contact with the space station, and you have to try to get off that space station, fairly quickly. So imagine a queue that looked like the International Space Station as you're traveling through it, kind of, and then everybody's getting into an escape pod of some kind and trying to get off that and get back to Earth before all this happens. Or shit, Scott, it's even better. Fuck comets. That's some Mickey Mouse bullshit right there.
If you guys can see the orgasm happening right now.
Solar flares. You get that, knocks out power, like a big ass EMP. You can see the whole Earth go dark. Yeah. And you have to come home in an old ass ghetto Russian Soyuz capsule from the 70s.
Oh.
Okay, this is the plot to a book that okay, it's called Spaceman. It's really good, but that's what I would like. That would actually be better. That would be better.
It's hitting theaters as part of Fox Greenlight next summer.
It would be really good though, because it's got the whole the government's in on it kind of thing happening, and I recommend
they
it.
Set us up there knowing that solar flares were going to happen.
Craig Allenson. It's called Spaceman. There's 3 books in it. It's pretty good.
No, I do like the space aspect that is still in Disney. Now, it seems as though we're going to get more intellectual property based with Star Wars coming up. After that, I don't see how they really incorporate space much more. Although, you know what, with the restaurant coming in, I don't see Mission Space going away.
No.
I mean, you're investing a lot of money, millions of dollars in this restaurant. You're gonna have to keep that. You're gonna have to keep that ride space-based for some time, at least, right?
I would say for a while, because first off, you can't do anything. You can't do anything really except change what you see on the screens. I mean, the ride vehicle, you can't just yank out some freaking space camp level centrifuge technology and put something else in there. It
Right.
ain't. This ain't remodeling the bathroom. All right.
No.
That tub unit ain't coming out the same door it went in. So
yeah. It's going to have to be. It's going to have to be a simulator ride. Now, if they would do multiple videos, that would be great. Like they've got 4 centrifuges.
Yeah.
Rotate the films. three
if
intense
each,
ones.
If each centrifuge had 2 different films that were not the same, then each side would have would have 10 different experiences.
Yeah, if the green is meant to be a less intense training, so maybe, one time you circle the Earth, the next time you go to the moon, circle the moon, and you come back, which, by the way, takes about 4 days in real life.
I assume. Haven't done it myself.
Mikey.
I did once launch a model rocket.
Well, you and Elon Musk, you're one and the same. As we finish up tonight, it'll be just the two of us. Just the two of us.
We can make it if we try.
Yeah, a little Will Smith action coming out.
Oh God, no! I just, I can't. No.
Also Stevie Wonder, but
I can't talk about Will Smith right now. I can't do it.
It'll be just the two of us next week as Tim and Adam are still cruising around the Bering Sea.
Is it a strait?
Well, the Bering Sea is up there too.
Well, not when Tim and Adam get there, it ain't. Hey-o! Put that in your Chinook.
So as they finish up their 6-day, 17-night Alaskan cruise, we'll have them back the following week. But next week it'll be just me and Mikey again. Mikey, this was not a 30-minute show.
No, who knew that Disney had so much history with space?
Yeah, a lot of space.
Before the acquisition of Lucasfilm.
Yes. So look, let's as we finish up tonight, I want to invite you guys to go over to www.magicalmeltdown.com.
Or Tom. Either way.
Or net. .net is really where it's at.
That is really where it's at. But
yes.
You can Tom to get there.
You can check out some of the great t-shirts, some things we talked about, like Pirate Cock.
You can get your own Pirate Cock. You can raid Alice Davis's stash.
Yeah. Now, Mikey, I will tell you, when I was down in Disney, walking around Epcot, I saw a Droid Story t-shirt.
Did you really?
It was in blue.
It is the most popular design I've got, and I'm so happy that Galaxy's Edge is opening the same year as Toy Story 4. It's the perfect storm of marketing for that t-shirt design.
Yes, it is.
And both Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge are the same damn park.
Yep.
So, you know what? You want to be one of the coolest bitches out. Well, not really, because there's a lot of you bitches that have acquired that t-shirt. Yeah, Droid Story. That's a fun one. 2 weeks ago I said about things I was working on, or maybe it was last week. I haven't released them yet because I'm so bad. So I don't want to talk about what I'm working on this time, Scott. Because
we don't have to. But when it drops,
because then I won't. But
when it drops, post it in the group, and like Blanton's, like Dot's Pretzels, the shooters will buy it.
Yeah. I like to try to release them near a weekend because that might be near a payday for some people.
Or also drunk ordering.
Yep.
Drunk shopping.
Yeah. So usually I try to release them like on a Thursday or a Friday. So I really need to. I need to find something to eat, Scott. This porthole's kicking my ass. I guess I could eat the fruit.
You could eat the fruit.
But that would be counterintuitive.
Well, it's still fruit. It's good for you. It's healthy. Eat it up. Eat it up while I wrap this up. Well, look, I want to thank you all for joining us this week on 3 Sheets to the Mouse. If you enjoyed the show, go over to iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. Rate, review, subscribe. That's the best way for other cheaters like you to find the show, because the more you rate it, the more you review it, and the more you subscribe, the higher it gets on the charts, which means more people see it and more people will join the Facebook group, and that's always fun. But you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at 3 Sheets Podcast. If you're in the parks, tag us on Instagram. Don't forget to use the hashtag 3 Sheets Nation. We do get those when you tag us, and we do get the 3 Sheets Nation. We look at it from time to time. I utilized the Instagram when I was down in Disney. I will make more of an effort to utilize it when I'm not in Disney. I got called out for it by a sheeter following the Instagram and said, "Hey, looks like someone found the password to the Instagram."
If you people only knew about that damn password.
I reminded him I'm the only one young enough to use Instagram.
I have Snapchat.
Yeah. My point exactly, guys. So yeah, go over to our Instagram, check us out, like us, and subscribe to us and follow us. If you want to really interact with the group, it's all about the Facebook. Facebook.com/groups/3sheets. That's where you can become part of 3 Sheets Nation. Again, when you do and when you invite others, we tell you time and time again, answer the questions. Otherwise, your friends magically disappear like Thanos. And yeah, never to be seen from again. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. I've watched all of them except for I have not seen Black Panther and Ant-Man and Ant-Man 2.
Okay, so Ant-Man 2 like literally leads up to the Avengers.
Yeah, I still got what he was doing.
In game.
I still got what he was doing.
I mean,
it's all good. So yeah, come hang out with us in the Facebook. Like I said, if you have friends that love Disney as much as you do, if they like drinking as much as you do, invite them to join 3 Sheets Nation. It's going to be where all the cool kids are. So, give me some closing remarks as we finish up our space episode.
It was out of this world.
Oh, you didn't go there.
I went there, man. I went there.
You went to the moon and back on that one.
I did. You could call me Rocket Man.
Burning out his fuse out here alone.
I was talking about the one with the monkey.
The what?
The movie.
Oh, yeah. The monkey epidemic of the 90s where every movie had a monkey.
Was that a Disney movie?
I think it was. It was like, what, 2000s, right?
I think so. Oh, no, yeah, it was the 2000s. That would have been,
No.
Yep.
Yeah. 97.
Man, how did we
1997.
not talk about that? Oh, it has a 21% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
Well, I mean, let's be
Harlan
honest,
Williams.
though. When Harlan Williams is your lead,
yes.
If you're looking for great Harlan Williams acting, just watch Dumb and Dumber.
Harlan.
He's the motorcycle cop that pulls them over and has to drink the beer
that's
bottles
right.
full of
He
piss.
is.
Yes,
I totally forgot about that. Sipping back on some of Grandpa's old cough medicine. Give me that.
That's my closing remarks, Scott. Beer piss.
Yep. All right. Look, as Harlan Williams drinks some Miller Lite, I do want to invite you because I would be remiss not to tell you that the great sheet up, the greater sheet up, because they had the great sheet up last November. The greater sheet up is happening this September. Go to the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/3sheets. Check it out. It's on the events page. It's going to include a 3 Sheets prom. So if you want your 16 candles moment, is that right? 16 candles had prom? I don't know. She's all that. If you want your she's all that moment, make sure you go over to the Facebook group, the events page, and get on board with that. Some of the things are kind of booked up at this point, dinners, but the Sheeters prom is still ongoing and strong. So check it out.
It could be Carrie.
That's dark.
It's prom.
That is prom. I really hope that 3 Sheets prom does not turn out like Carrie.
Depends on who's coming.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you guys all for joining us at 3 Sheets to the Mouse. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back again next week. Just me and Mikey. Possibly.
I mean, at the bare minimum.
At the bare minimum.
Me and Mikey. But I'm Mikey, so that would just be 2 of me. So perhaps Scott and I.
Yes. So I want to thank you guys from all of us here at 3 Sheets to the Mouse. Thank you for making our show part of your Disney life. Thank you for your time this time. And until next time, so long for just a while.
Thank you!
Yeah. Wait, you don't have a flamethrower?
I have got a pack of matches from a titty bar and some Aquanet.